What is up, guys? Rick here, and this is the comparison video between the AEK-971 and the FAMAS. These are the two assault rifles that are meant for close quarters, and that's why they are being compared. So let's delve right into this with the stats. First, damage and range. Both of these guns have the same damage and range, doing 25 maximum damage out to 8 meters, and then sloping down to 18 minimum damage at 55 meters and beyond. Now, every other stat beyond this is pretty much different. The AEK has a rate of fire of 900 rounds per minute. The FAMAS has a rate of fire of 1,000 rounds per minute. This is an 11% advantage for the FAMAS. Bullet velocity also differs. The AEK has a bullet velocity of 580 meters per second. The FAMAS has a bullet velocity of 630 meters per second. So this is an actual advantage, 9% faster bullet velocity for the FAMAS. Now, this doesn't necessarily come into play too much, as bullet velocity is most important in long-range engagements. Neither of these guns are suited that well for long range, and especially not the FAMAS. Now, magazine size also differs. The AEK has a very standard 31 rounds in a magazine. Most assault rifles have this. But the FAMAS has a lower 26 rounds in a magazine. So, the AEK has a 19% bigger magazine than the FAMAS. This is especially going to come into play considering both these guns shoot extremely fast, so a lower magazine for the FAMAS is a definite disadvantage. Now, the reload speeds are actually pretty interesting. The AEK reloads faster as long as there are bullets left in the magazine. If there are bullets left in the magazine, the AEK reloads at 2.3 seconds, whereas the FAMAS reloads at 2.8 seconds. So, in terms of tactical reload, the AEK reloads 18% faster as long as there's bullets in the magazine. Now, if there isn't bullets in the magazine, if the reload is an empty magazine, the AEK reloads at 3.6 seconds, whereas the FAMAS reloads at 3.55 seconds. This is actually a 1% advantage for the FAMAS. Now, that is very, very little, and you're probably not even going to notice it. However, it does mean that when you're using the AEK, you should definitely try to reload while there is still bullets in the magazine. Now, recoil pattern differs greatly for both of these guns. The AEK recoils 0.38 up, 0.15 left, and 0.4 right, meaning that the AEK substantially kicks rightwards while shooting fully automatic. The FAMAS recoils substantially more, 0.4 up, 0.4 left, and 0.6 right. Now, to put into perspective, the AEK has 5% less upwards kick, so that's the advantage there in terms of upwards kick. The AEK has 63% less kick to the left and 33% less kick to the right. So those are substantial advantages for the AEK. The AEK is definitely the less recoiling gun. Now, some more interesting stats that are worth mentioning. The aim down sight spread of the FAMAS is worse than most assault rifles at 0.25 instead of the average 0.2. So in case you don't know, when you aim down sights, you're not actually shooting pinpoint accurately. There's a little circle, a 0.2 wide circle, that your bullets will go in. And as you fire, the circle gets bigger, but essentially it's like when you aim down sights, your hipfire doesn't completely go away, your hipfire just gets much, much smaller. So, having a worse aim down sight spread, 0.25, means that the likelihood of you missing a target you're aiming at is higher with the FAMAS. Now, actually, interestingly enough, it's reversed in terms of aim down sights while moving. So you have a different aim down sights spread while you're moving. The aim down sights spread while you're moving for the AEK is 1, and for the FAMAS it's 0.8. So the FAMAS is less accurate standing still than the AEK, but more accurate while moving aiming down sights than the AEK, which is a very interesting dynamic. Next, the last stat we're going to talk about is Hipfire. The FAMAS, being a bullpup where the magazine is behind the trigger, means that it has better hipfire than its non-bullpup counterparts. When standing still, the FAMAS is going to get 25% better hipfire, that's standing, crouch, and prone, than the AEK. Now, while moving, it's substantially lower. You're going to get, on average, 6% better hipfire while moving when compared with the AEK, but there is a definite hipfire advantage for the FAMAS. Now, that's it for the stats, talking about the general feel of these two guns. Both these guns are so good in close quarters. Their rate of fires are incredible, and the FAMAS does get a substantial hipfire bonus. However, in general, if you're using these on any other map other than Operation Locker and Operation Metro, the definite winner is the AEK. Just reloading so much left. Like you heard those stats. It reloads so much less than the FAMAS. It is so much easier to control in medium range engagements. The FAMAS kicks everywhere. Now, you can put attachments on the FAMAS to better control its recoil, but frankly, having a lesser sized magazine really comes into play. The reload for the FAMAS is pretty punishing. Like, bullpup weapons generally reload a lot slower than non-bullpup counterparts. So using the FAMAS, having that massive rounds per minute, where it is, like, the 1,000 rounds per minute is going to come into play 100%. However, you're actually going to probably end up shooting more bullets than you need to kill someone, like 99% of the time. So you're going to be reloading so much with the FAMAS, and that reload is decently punishing. The AEK is very good up close, not as good as the FAMAS. If you were playing simply Operation Metro all the time, constantly, I would recommend the FAMAS. However, you know, if you want to keep using one of these guns outside of Operation Locker, you know, for the next map rotation, the definite winner is the AEK. It performs very well in close quarters. It is not lacking in any terms, but it also performs pretty well medium range. In fact, very well medium range. You can drop guys fully automatic at medium range, no problem. The recoil is not that much. For comparison, the recoil in the AEK is lower than the recoil on the ACWR, which is extremely capable at medium range. And I'm sure you guys have been killed at medium range with the ACWR, no problem. So, the advantage, my definite winner in these two guns, is the AEK. It is simply the most versatile weapon of the two. However, it still is very pungent in close quarters. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a good day.